Thank you very much for coming to this assembly organized by the Institutional Reconciliation and Transformation Commission that this university has set up. With me up here is a group of people that you have elected as commissioners. I'm Sibudi Mangena, the chairperson. And on my right is Zak Yakub. And to his right is Malusi Langa. Beyond the Vice-chancellor is Yasmin Suga. And on the far left is Yvette Abrams. I don't have to introduce the Vice-chancellor. You know her very well. She is on my left. And of course, there are other people who are associated with the university who will take to the podium in due course. This is a short intervention of only an hour long. It's simply a dipstick that will give all of us a sense or a flavor of the issues that you at this university face. The commission has so far dealt with issues of amnesty relating to students who went through disciplinary processes at the university and were found guilty of this or the other matter, and the necessary punishment meted out. The commission dealt with all those cases as directed by the institution to decide whether or not they should be given amnesty, and all of them were given amnesty. And their cases referred to the university authorities. There are cases that the commission had not dealt with that concern those students who have not gone through any processes at all. We will see how to deal with those matters as we go on. But now the commission will move on to deal with issues of reconciliation, transformation, decolonization, the culture of this institution, whether all of us feel welcome and comfortable at this institution, or whether there are things that we need to do in order to ensure that everybody at this university feels welcome, comfortable, and pursue their desires, acquire knowledge in an environment that is welcoming and comfortable for everyone. We are going to have very few speeches here. First will be our Vice-chancellor, followed by the President of the SRC, followed by Edwina Brooks of the PASS Forum, and then we will have George Sitole of the Black Academics Caucus, and then thereafter we will have inputs by all of us here. We may make comments, etc., but as I say, we have only an hour. And we will ask you thereafter to come and make presentations to the commission about the issues that you face at this institution. At this moment, it is my pleasure to invite the Vice-chancellor, Professor Parking, to make an input.
Bafundi, Sanibonani. Bafundi, molweni. Thank you for sparing your lunchtime to be here with us. This is a momentous week. It's a momentous week, and I'm sure all of you know that today we mark 50 years since Bremner Building was occupied by students in protest against UCT's withdrawal of Achima Feje's appointment following the pressure from the apartheid government. It happened yesterday, actually, on the 13th, not today, yesterday. But this week is momentous, not only because of the memory and what happened to Achima Feje. It's also momentous because on Thursday, we will also be marking the Marikana massacre. And so it's an important week on many of our calendars because it points to ills in our society that existed 50 years ago, and many of them continue to exist today. And we come here together at this assembly as an institution, recognizing that some of those ills, some of those inequities, some of those challenges that we faced in the past still exist today. And we want, as an institution, to be together to say, we want a future that is different. We want a future without a possible Marikana. We want a future without a possible Mafeje situation. And to have that kind of future, we've got to come together and look at our past and say the past that has divided us has to end today. And how do we make it end? And in my view, we can make it end only by agreeing that a lot has gone wrong, perhaps a lot has gone in the way that it shouldn't have, and we all want to come together to make right. And that's why the Institutional Reconciliation and Transformation Commission is important. It is important not for now. It's important not just for us. It's important for the future. It's important for our children and our children's children, who should find this institution much more inclusive, much more welcoming, much more available to everyone to own and to feel that is theirs. But we can only do that if we agree to look at our past and say enough is enough. We want a future that is different. And that's why we, as the executive management, support the Institutional Reconciliation and Transformation Commission. And we set it up, and we want it to succeed because it's about the future of our students, the future of our institution, the future of our country. And so today is about encouraging all of us to participate. As management, we have engaged, we have seen students who experienced the past few years period of contestation as difficult and traumatizing. We've also met with staff who have experienced the past few years of struggle as traumatizing. And we're saying both sides have suffered. And we know that for students, the suffering didn't only start only 3 years ago. It's a struggle that started a long time ago. And the Mafeja situation is just an example of how these things have happened in the past. And so we want you to come here and buy into this process. We've only so far had one leg of it with amnesty for the students. We want it to move further from here to having a process that will get our institution to become much more inclusive. And so let me thank the commissioners and Ntate Mangena for leading us in this way, making time available to help us as an institution, because as an institution, we got to a stage where we felt that we've got to get people from outside, people who are respected like yourself, to come and help us work together, come together as a community to face our future and to craft a better future for us and the institution as a whole. And so, again, today we commit ourselves to that, and we hope that this process become a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Vice-Chancellor Parking. It's now my pleasure to invite the President of the SRC to make her remarks.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, let me first make rectification. My name is Karabo Khakao. I am currently serving as the Student Advocacy Coordinator. I'm sitting here today on behalf of the SRC President in his absence as per his request. Chairperson, I think this process is one that is very important, not only important because we need to start engaging as an institution, but it is important because when looking forward to the type of South Africa and the kind of UCT that we would all want to form part of, the engagement process has to include all of us in it in order for us to together pave a way that reflects our diversity, reflects our common goal of an education that is inclusive, a culture that is inclusive and transformative in a way that still gives life to the constitutional democracy South Africa has afforded us. Now, as a student body, we have had different experiences with regards to what a transformative agenda is meant to be in this institution, particularly because our experiences of freedom are also different. A freedom that, for one, may be closer towards being absolute, but on the other hand, a freedom that does not even reflect bits of freedom within an institution. And I think this then brings more reason as to why this process has to be as inclusive as possible. Because I think for many of us in this institution, we imagine a UCT where both Black, colored, Indian, and white students can exist within the same space without any discriminatory agenda, and exist in a space that allows all of us to be who we are, rightfully so, within a democracy. So I encourage then, the SRC then encourages each and every one of the students within this university to participate and raise our voices on our concerns within this institution. For this process will not make sense until all of our voices are heard. Our silence on what a transformative agenda is meant to be in this institution will not work. And that is why we need to rise, regardless of how opposing our views of a transformative agenda may be. We, as an institution, have a responsibility not only to ourselves, but to future generations into this institution who will reap the benefits of a culture that we are responsible of building in this institution. We cannot, in future, blame anybody but ourselves if we're going to be silent about what a university that exists within a democratic institution is meant to be. A democratic institution which embraces, again, I'd like to stress, embraces a culture that is inclusive, that is diverse, and diverse not only in terms of racial tone, but diverse in terms of experiences, in terms of thought, in terms of experience, in terms of identity as well. So that is the remark that the SRC has to bring to the table. And again, thank you very much, Chairperson. And again, as a student body, let us together now take charge of our own identities, take charge of our own thoughts, take charge of our own principles, and take charge of our own institution, for we alone are the people who can make a difference in this institution and ultimately South Africa as a whole. Thank you, Chairperson.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much for that input. It's now my pleasure to invite Edwina Brooks of PAS to make her remarks.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you to everyone who has come out to hear what the IRTC is about. I think the Vice-chancellor and the SRC President, as well as the Chair of the Commissioner, have underlined the importance of this process, that we are sitting in a very important time in our university's life, and it's about how we're going to move forward. And as we're sitting here, and as you're thinking of how you are feeling and how what you think about this institution, I want to encourage you to participate. So I'm going to come from the perspective of encouraging all of you, not only the staff, but also the students, to participate in the IRTC process. I myself have had the privilege of making a submission to the IRTC process, and therefore I just want to share that perspective from a very real place. Why is it important to participate? It is an opportunity for you to tell your story of your experiences, no matter how long you have been here. It's a way to unburden, to feel heard, and to voice your concerns. Moreover, this is a significant change process, and it means that we can forge the new identity that's what our strategic plan is about and what our new UCT vision is about. And we can also shape the kind of culture that we want to learn in, that we want to live in, that we want to work in. In my conversations with staff and students, people have raised many concerns to me about participating. The first is that they say they don't have information about how to participate. So this is really your opportunity to find out more about how you can participate in this process. I also want to encourage you to read the campus announcements, the the Facebook and the social media different platforms, and also the UCT website. Feel free to ask questions here about how to get involved in this process. A second point is that people are skeptical that things will change. As others have said, a lot of time has gone into this process. It has been a contested process. In other words, those of us who are in the steering committee, it hasn't been a smooth process. We have battled ideologically. We have different ideas about what this institution should be like. But I think this is that doesn't negate the fact that we have to have this process. So even though we have different views and ideas, it's still important to be part of this process. We also know that we have commissioners who are independent and will make recommendations to the University Council about how these changes will be enacted. This is all very hard work, but I do believe it is very necessary work. And for those of you who don't believe that change is possible, I have the privilege of having studied, I studied here as a student in the 1990s. I also witnessed when our fellow staff members who were cleaners and working in the kitchen were outsourced. It was a very painful moment in 1998 and 1999 in the history of this institution. And in fact, it really changed the way we related to each other over the many years. And so for me to have seen how the workers have been insourced to become part of the UCT community has been a great testament to the possibility of change. So once again, I just want to encourage you that it is possible to see change in our time. And so a third concern, which is for me the most worrying concern, is that some people think they will be victimized for coming forward and participating in the process. And I think this is an indicator of something wrong in our institutional culture. And I do believe that by us participating in this process, we're showing that we are not tolerating victimization, that we will stand up and break the silence around our many stories and the many burdens and painful experiences that people are sitting with, and that by participating, we will have to ensure as an institution that people aren't victimized. And so I want to ask that can we break with the culture of victimization, that we once and for all stop the culture of victimization by participating in this process and standing together to encourage everyone to participate. So I want to thank you again for your attention, and please feel free to ask questions to the panel. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Edwina Brooks. It's now my pleasure to invite George Sitole of the Black Academic Caucus to make his input.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to first begin by acknowledging the Commission, the Vice-chancellor, and students and other representatives of the constituencies on campus who have contributed a lot of their time to make this work a success. I'll read from a statement that we have prepared. Right. A quality that binds us all is our desire to be better. We continually seek those upward trajectories that lead us to better versions of ourselves. Transformation is therefore not an unfamiliar concept to us all. We live it every day. But in the pursuit of our own betterment, we easily forget that others are doing the same and are as deserving as us to have their hopes and dreams rewarded. Let us remind ourselves of the ways in which we transform ourselves. We visit places of worship for spiritual transformation. For physical transformation, we go to places of physical training and exercise. Family and friends offer us spaces for emotional transformation. For cultural transformation, we travel with those and interact with those we don't know. And for intellectual transformation, we have schools, colleges, and universities. But whichever and whatever way we transform, there's always a place that we go to in body, in mind, or in spirit. UCT is no exception. We are all here because each of us, in our own way, aspires to intellectual transformation. But our problem as a collective is that for many of us, the transformative experience has become unfulfilling. Because of historical circumstances, too many of us find that in this space, as we progress in our intellect, we have to regress in other aspects of our personal transformation. We have to sacrifice our physical, emotional, and psychological well-being, our family and friends, our dignity, our culture, our financial well-being, and even ironically, our intellect. For some of us, the sacrifices are too much, and we choose to leave. Others tragically pay for this intellectual transformation with their lives. Personal transformation should not and cannot be a zero-sum game. But for some of us, that is what it has been and what it continues to be. This is why, when 2 years ago students floated the idea of a Transformation and Reconciliation Commission, the Black Academic Caucus supported it. Because it is a test of our sanity that while building some parts of our lives, we have to simultaneously destroy the other parts of it. Our intellect and conscience should rebel against this illogical condition. As the Black Academic Caucus, we hope that the IRTC process will create a space for the UCT collective to learn, to discover a new and better version of itself, and more representative of greater society. We should all want the best for each other. For society to be better, we all have to be better. For the sake of all of us, we can be better and we should be better. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. The inputs from the podium here are over. There are 3 mics. 1, 2, 3. It is now an opportunity for anyone who would like to make an input, to ask a question, to come forth and speak at any one of these mics. We have got 30 minutes in which we can make comments and ask questions. Remember, we are trying to reshape UCT, make it a better institution, not only for those of us who are presently on this campus, but for future generations as well, as a public institution. Please, you may come to any of these mics and make a and ask your question.
Thank you, Chair. My one first of all is to thank the Commission for availing the time to help us sort a very pressing matter for Black students specifically here in this university. Many students will know that since 2015, Black students in this university started to say that we want to have a voice. And the main problem, Chair, is that as Black students and Black staff in this university, we do not see ourselves in the architectural and epistemological design of this university. It is very difficult for a black student coming from Kailicha, Lower Crossroads, and Kanduli to find a voice when they come here. It is a very alienating space for us. And what has been missing is that there's not been a support that is given to students who do not come necessarily from wealthy backgrounds or from better schools, your former Model C and your private schools. And one of the failures is that we have the main focus area that the university has taken is to think that the gap is only in academics. You will have your EDUs set up, which are themselves not enough. But the problem is that the institution has not looked into the cultural gap that is there. And it is something that exists, but the university has not focused on it. You focus a lot on the academics, and even they themselves have not done a proper job in it. A very simple example is, if you look at the supporting institutions in this university, your student wellness, there's a student wellness week currently happening, your disco, these institutions are very much understaffed, under-resourced, and these are the institutions that give the cultural and the social support to students that feel marginalized in this university. And this is something that we have not been able to look into. If you look at all the resources that are sent, they are very much focused on academics and not looking that for you to strive academically, one also has to look at the holistic nature of the university that you find yourselves in. It is very difficult for someone who's a black student coming from Kailicha, a shack, has to sleep in a res called Jan Smarts to this day. You go into buildings named after people like Leo Marquardt, who were racists. And this is something that you have to deal with. You have to go to residencies and you have to uphold some weird brotherhood culture, sisterhood culture. That is a very much single-sex private school thing. Each year you have to go, black poor students have to go to formals that they have to pay money for. Some of us know we've been in the basic education system for 12 years. But even that matric ball becomes a very important time. People are struggling to find money somewhere, someone to take you to a matric ball. But you come to university, you are supposed to go to a formal each year. We are struggling to do it once every 12 years.
A formal what?
A formal, the residences have this thing of formals every year. We struggle to do it when we prepared for 12 years. Now we are supposed to prepare in 1 year for it. But yeah, we'll make substantive submissions when we write. But I just wanted to ask a simple question of when is the due dates for people to submit their presentations? And also, can people submit anonymously? And things like that, the logistics, who to send the submissions to, and all that. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. The due date was yesterday. Yes, but you are welcome to make, all I'm trying to say is that the sooner the better, that you make those submissions. We will welcome them very much. But the sooner we make those submissions, the better. You had, pardon?
Good day, everyone.
Okay, please, the submissions are to be made to the address of the commission. Here is Candy sitting next to you. He'll give you the address to where you can make your submissions to. You are on the floor.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good day, everyone. So there was a lot of talk about insourcing everyone, it's a buzzword now, insourcing. But my question is, what structures are in place to ensure that the workers have better conditions once they are insourced? Because it's all well and done when we have insourcing, but who's to say that the conditions for the workers are now improving? So I think there should be some sort of structure in place to check up and make sure that these workers are in better conditions. Because we do find in the dining halls there are still some positions that are unhappy with the conditions in which they work. We have the issue of dining halls on the weekends where staff are overworked, there's not enough staff on the weekend, and not much is being done about it. And I feel like this should be addressed as part of the commission. Yeah.
Thank you very much. There is, yeah, you are.
Thank you, Chairperson. I want to ask just a few questions. I think it's not a secret to anyone here that when UCT was first incepted, they never imagined having black students here. This university was not meant for us. It was never meant to have black lecturers, black directors, black DVCs, never mind a black female vice-chancellor. We seem to want to address the symptoms of UCT's institutional culture by looking at hiring more black people, adding more black students. When are we going to go back to look at when UCT was incepted and how it was designed, who it was designed for, and how it's meant to function? Because currently we'll deal with adding more black students, but they'll come here, they'll suffer. As an SRC member, I can attest that of the hundreds of students that I've consulted in my office, 99.9% of them were black. White students don't come to the SRC offices needing help with food, accommodation, or other things within the institution. That still says that even the more of us to come here, the more help we need. But now, without addressing, looking at how UCT was formed and who it was formed for, we won't achieve transformation because we keep addressing the symptoms and not the root cause. When South Africa moved from apartheid to democratic South Africa, they had a referendum. For one day, South Africa was standstill, and people had to vote whether or not they were going to go towards the process of democracy. Here we are today speaking about a process of transformation as UTT. There are people in tutorials as we speak right now. There are people in lectures. How then are people who are part of the institution supposed to make submissions and know what is happening when we still have commitments as students, as staff, to the university? I ask that if we want to further this project and make it successful, let us commit a day where there's no class, there's no lecture, there's no meeting, so that people can focus on the issues that are troubling them in this institution. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. Chairperson, my voice is strained. I hope I'll be audible. Secondly, I am a signatory to this commission. I need not be here to make a submission to the commissioners. I know how to do that. The submission that I want to make, however, is to the crowd sitting over here. Because somewhere in apathy breeds a very convenient violence, violence of convenience. So I would like to move and send attention to over here. And then that's where I'll make my submission. Both context and numbers matters. So now, Chairperson, on the 9th of April, a student by the name of Kumamino Khwele threw feces upon Senator Durasbe. That was one student. On the 15th of April 2015, 6 students formed the pillars of RMF at Bremner. Mascole Atabile was there. Later thereafter, a movement called Rose was formed, which called for the institutional symbolism, institutional racism of this campus. In the end, when that statue fell, 215 students were charged. But the protest was not led by 215 students. What 215 students were identified was those of the students that put themselves on the line for everyone that is here and not participating. Moving on. On the 16th of February, there were 16 respondents. Then there's a hashtag called I am the 17th respondent. The 17th respondent was everyone here that was not in court. The 16th students were students who were suspended interdicted, and expelled from this university. 5 of them lost a year. On the 15th of September 2016, 17 students once more shut down this university for 2 months. Now I want to say to everyone sitting here, there will be no 17 students that shut down a university of 27,000 students. Those 17 got their power, they got their legitimacy, and they got the right to protest from everyone that's here today that does not know what's happening about this. Now, I want to tell you something. Apathy breeds a very, very convenient violence, whereby people only rise once the issue hits home. Because then once the issue hits home, Mascolo will be there, Sokolo will be there, Atabelo will be there to take it to root. And when the people say we don't have a voice, we want an institution, we want an IRTC, we want this, and that. Few students, they'll come up and they'll brand themselves as that, and they'll result in this happening. When this happens, when those students get mentally institutionalized by some of the executives sitting over there, when these students get sick, brutalized by this institution, but nevertheless, this happens, the least that can be done is that this becomes engaged too. So this is the IRTC that people are called for. This is the IRTC that a number that can be called has sacrificed a lot. And this is the IRTC which now it is said that a group of some others has led to the depression of some high key academics in this university. The conversation we should be having is this. When we say depression, and when we can link depression to a particular group that rises because of particular issues, what are the issues about? And that's the conversation which these independent commissioners are supposed to be having with you. But now the conversation they're having with themselves, because nobody here is speaking up. All I'm saying is this, apathy brings a very, very convenient violence. It's very disturbing. As someone, or as people that have been through it all, to notice the loud silence of this particular group. Hopefully, those submissions, when they bring out, when submissions should be made, you will be engaging with it. Because, yeah, let me stop there. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. There is, yeah, you may go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you very much for this opportunity. The matters I put to you regard democracy, particularly towards the freedom of expression and rule of law. Now, we have been talking about, quite emphatically about how we should move forward together, being able to express all of our opinions without being victimized or being acted upon or given charges for whatever you have expressed. But based on that matter, it's very easy to talk about we should move forward in a theoretical sense, but how should we move forward in a practical sense when we are obviously dealing with a very emotional matter regarding the inclusivity of this university? And relating to that, in terms of the rule of law, how do we move forward and make a distinguish between expressing one's opinions and then also regarding the rule of law, especially in the sense of the cases you have mentioned of giving amnesty to people who may have not regarded rule of law and damaged property. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I acknowledge your presence. Vice-chancellor, I acknowledge your presence. SRC delegates acknowledge your presence. Director of Students Affairs acknowledge your presence. And everyone else in the committee. Thank you for the work that the committee has done thus far. But Chairperson, I have an issue. It's very easy to stand up on a podium and to speak about representing students when your actions do not show that. And as people that are deployed by students to represent students, it is their duty to speak on the behalf of students. Chairperson, when we speak about uniting the institution and ensuring that there's cultural diversity, which is noted in all corners of this institution, which is noted in all students within this institution, it's of utmost importance that those that are leading us as students are united as one. Chairperson, the dynamics of the SRC, which has led us this year, has not represented that at all. It has in fact failed the students in many remarks. And in failing the students, Chairperson, it has been the internal dynamics of by people seeking personal power over student needs within this institution. Chairperson, how can we transform an institution or a transformation that is led by students, the same students that were protesting in 2015, 2016, as well as a little bit in 2017, saying that they are standing for students, but when they're in SRC themselves, they are busy using funds of the SRC that are meant for students for their own personal needs. Chairperson, how do we say that we are here to stand for students when the very same people that say that have said for many years that they stand for students but are now failing students the moment that they receive any form of power in this institution? Chairperson, I ask the SRC to stop lying to us, the students, and saying that they are calling for unity. And transformation within the institution, but when their every act has in fact been the opposite of that. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much. Are there any more input? Yes, here is the mic here. Okay.
Good afternoon. Linda Gaisa, Coordinator Societies and Day Student in DSA. Mine would be very simple. It would be very interesting to see what IRTC means for past staff. It feels like this institution is more academia. We know, yes, this is what it's about. But with everything that's happening, past staff are the same people who support the students who are going through a lot, who try and do their best. But we are looked at as the just by the way. So it will be very interesting to see what that means for past staff. Or should one past staff fall and something terrible happens to them in order for them to be recognized that they mean something in this institution? We might not be providing the academic support, but we provide the reason we have graduates who are holistic out there. It's because of the support staff. What does it mean for support staff at UCT? Are we just by the way, or do we mean? Are we playing a role, or are we just being an added number?
Please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairperson. Mine is short and simple. Ever since the events of 2015, we have seen in a number of times the university dilly-dallying on substantive change. And part of that dilly-dallying, of course, is to set up pseudo commissions that pretend as if they are dealing with student issues while on a roadshow. My question, perhaps my concern, is that how is the TRC or RTC different from every other commission that has happened in this university or in this country? Two, understanding that the demographics of this university are dominated by a minority in our country, that is a majority in our university. How are we going to make sure that us, who are a minority but who are a majority in our country, our views are reflected in the foundings of the TRC? Thirdly, I want to ask that ever since the events of last week, the campus has been suffering from a very sad loss. And part of that loss has triggered so many things to students, staff, and academics. And my question is that how is the RTC going to deal effectively with the question of depression in this university that is built by institutional culture of racism? Because we know who commits suicide in this university. It's not white students. We know who fails, who gets academically excluded. It's not white students. We know who's belittled by white lecturers in seminars. It's not white students. White students have a relationship with, as if it's a relationship with a parent with their white lecturers. So I'm trying to see how are we going to be accommodated. Lastly, because we are accused of so many things in this university, I'm trying to understand for those who have been expelled, suspended for a whole year, what is the compensation on the time that we have lost academically and the trauma that we have experienced? Because we were sent to the university to get degrees, but luckily we are coming out with criminal charges and all of those things in our transcript. So I want to see whether is there some sort of compensation or is there some sort of relief for those who have suffered, because we are really suffering from the events of what has happened on the previous years. But subsequently, the fact that the university has not changed at all, how is this RTC going to be any different? I want to end it there, and also to say that the SRC really encourages other people to participate in this thing, as many as they can come. Not this thing of people that are eating man.
Well, thank you very much. Is there another? We have got 7 minutes left, and thereafter I'll ask one or two of the commissioners to make a few comments, and then we will disperse, and we will see you in your faculties, because the commission is visiting each and every faculty to get your views and also to ask you to make submissions in writing, so that together we might transform this university into a home for everyone. Please go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, thanks for this opportunity. You've mostly dealt with the point that I wanted to raise. So for people who do want to make submissions, if there is an extension, can you just clearly communicate up until which point or how much time do people have to make submissions?
Just make those submissions as soon as you can. We have been dealing with submissions for a while. We know that there are people who are not sure how to make those submissions. Make them as short as possible. Here is Candice here. I think I'll ask her at one point to indicate where she can be found, so that you may make those submissions. Is there anybody who would like to ask a question or to make a quick point? Otherwise, I'll ask the one of the commissioners or or the other to make a quick point, and then we disperse. But we see you in your faculties when we do visit those faculties. There's no one else. Zach, would you like to say a few words? The mic is here.
Thank you very much, everybody, and all of you. We thank you very much for coming here, to speaking to us, and letting us understand what your troubles are and how we can help you. I want to say that we, as a commission, having ensured that amnesty has been granted to many, will now try and make sure that processes are put into place to ensure that there is transformation, to ensure that there is reconciliation. We want to create a situation where there will no longer be need for violence in this university. We want to create a situation where all students will be taken seriously. We want to create a situation in which the university will develop carefully and seriously a new culture in which there will be a new recognition. There will no longer be assimilation of black students into the white culture, but we've got to develop and start the process of developing a culture at this university which recognizes the cultures of all, a dynamic culture, a culture of non-violence which will continue, and a culture of learning which is not dependent only on excellence, but a culture of learning which is aimed at improving the human condition and improving the conditions of the people in our lives. So on that basis, could you please make all the submissions we can? We are going to be different from any of the previous commissioners, because I don't recall in my history a commission having been appointed to make recommendations about truth and reconciliation. Our sense is that there is a certain seriousness in the university, there is a certain seriousness in management, in many parts of management, to take the recommendations we make seriously and to implement them. But it will take a long time. There is racism in the whole of our society. In this university is somehow reflective of that racism too. But it is true that a university which was created for white students on a white culture has to do more than just assimilate the black people who come there and make sure that the black people become like the white students who are around. That cannot be the object. Then we will never have satisfied black students. We will never have a university representative of this country. So the problems are both short-term and long-term. We don't know about compensation. We cannot answer that question directly. We will have to see about that. But the problems are difficult. They are long-term. And at the very least, we hope to be able to recommend processes which, if they are genuinely and properly followed, will lead to a better university, a more inclusive university, not a university in which the black students and lecturers are assimilated, but a university which has a culture that is accepting of every person that comes to this university, whatever the race, whatever the religion. That is all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I'll have Dr. Abrams saying one or two words, and we will then close the meeting.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say in response to the people who asked how will we be protected from victimization, and I must say that the mere fact that people are asking that, the mere fact that people fear victimization in itself conveys a lot of information. So I wanted to say we hear you. But when you make a submission to the commission, the first person to see it is Candace, and you can indicate in your first line that I want this to be a confidential submission. And that means that every process after that, your name will be kept confidential. Thank you.
I understand there is someone who was held up at work, and she would like to say a few minutes. Well, the time is very little now, so just say a few words and then we close the meeting.
The worker at UCT, we are demanding the apology from UCT at the time of the insourcing, because now it's like only the workers and the students must come and say, sorry, UCT. UCT must come to the workers, and the commissioners of this meeting, they must make a meeting that is going to allow all workers at UCT without a time off. We want that meeting in our working hours. So we are asking all those people that are sitting there that they must give us that time. And there are obstacles at UCT. UCT, they don't want to recognize other unions. The unions that were chosen by the workers. So it's like now the black women at UCT, they are not recognized by UCT. So we are not happy as the UCT workers. And we see ourselves that we are isolated as workers at UCT because we don't have education. We are uneducated. They call us that we are not very important, like professors, like VC. That's why now they are dividing us according to the pay classes. As I'm standing here, I'm demanding the UCT. They must take serious the workers' demand of the living wage. Not something that is from them, the living wage. Because we have everything that we have to do like everyone at UCT. And because of the time, as you said, but I'm asking you guys, you are sitting in front of us with a respect that what Professor Jonathan Grossman, he put things on the table in front of you in your room. That thing you have to take serious because it affects all workers at UCT. So as Salitsu member, I'm demanding you guys to talk to UCT that they must recognize the women, the black women at UCT. We want to be recognized as a study school workers union. We want that. That thing must happen. Thank you very much.
You didn't siyacela asange uthole isikhathi eside so sicela lephepha elo ulinike lona if you ready, if awukho ready ungalilungisa and then you bring it to us when it's ready. Well, thank you very much. Please make those submissions. We will meet you in your faculties during the course of the next few days. Thank you very much and thank you for coming.